Okay, let's be real. Parenting is not easy, but you are not alone. Welcome to the Parent Prescription, a podcast where I will give you real, practical advice to help you navigate the ups and the downs of raising healthy, happy kiddos without losing your mind. Welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode is such an important one, and honestly, it's something that every parent needs to hear, but it's not always easy to talk about. And it feels especially meaningful because April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, a time dedicated to raising awareness and, more importantly, giving families tools that they need to keep their children safe. We're joined by a special guest from the Texarkana Children's Advocacy Center to talk about Pediatric Prevention Initiative. This initiative is all about giving parents simple, practical tools to help protect their children and feel more confident having conversations and body safety boundaries about body safety and boundaries. Our goal today is to keep this conversation approachable and empowering, not overwhelming, so that you can walk away with real everyday strategies you can start using with your child. So let's get into this dose of Dr. C. Today, I have Miss Trinity Gardner with me from Texarkana Children's Advocacy Center, and we're going to be talking about things that sometimes we don't want to discuss, but we need to discuss. We want to take the fear out of this, okay? And so that's why we are here today. So we're just going to start off with, can you just tell us about the Children's Advocacy Center?
Yes. So the Texarkana Children's Advocacy Center is a local nonprofit, and children's advocacy centers are all over the United States. We have ours for Texarkana, here in Texarkana, and we're usually the first stop for a child and their family after a child abuse report is made. And so we work with our multidisciplinary team, which consists of law enforcement, child protective services, medical, therapy, all these different pieces. And we just want to provide hope, healing, and justice for the child and their family, and then just help them along this journey in the best way we can.
Okay, and so this usually happens after an event or a report is made.
Yes. So how a child comes into our center to actually receive our services is law enforcement or child protective services has to set up the child for what we call a forensic interview. And that forensic interview allows that child to tell their story in their own words in a non-traumatizing way. Before CACs existed, children may have to tell their story 6, 7 times, which still happens today, but we're trying to reduce that amount because it's the worst thing that's ever happened to a child, right? So they bring them in and we can do that interview. We have trained interviewers that ask these children in non-leading ways to gather that information. And it's audio and video recorded, so that child only has to tell their story one time.
That's nice.
And all those pieces can have that same information.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. I mean, who wants to repeat a story like that over and over and over again? So, I mean, here's my question, and I'm not even looking at my cue cards right now. Are we only talking about sexual abuse, or are we talking about physical abuse, neglect, like trauma, or is it only for sexual abuse cases?
Yeah, so we can see any kind of abuse. So we can see physical, emotional, sexual neglect. We see online solicitations. We see, like sextortion things, right? Online crime. So we see a variety, but most of the time we're seeing more of the severe cases. So sexual abuse, physical abuse, and things like that. We can interview as young as 2 years old and go through young adulthood. Sometimes we'll interview adults with disabilities just because our interviewers are trained to do nonverbal and different things like that. So we do a facet of things, but most of the cases we see, I showed you a pie chart, 70% would be of sexual abuse.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, what inspired you to work with, I mean, it's a pretty emotional job, that's hard.
Yeah.
What inspired you to do this?
Right. Well, I first got into the field of nonprofits when I started working at the Domestic Violence Prevention Center here in town. That was my first big girl job. And I got in there and I really just started learning the dynamics of domestic violence. And I really liked that realm, right? And that's going to get me here. I had a lot of friends in high school. We were all in relationships. Those relationships that we thought were healthy and good and great, were really not so great. They were actually really abusive. You know, we think jealousy is cute. We think that wanting to know where you're at all the time is normal in relationships, and that's not. And so then that's where I got started teaching the schools and doing prevention efforts, as I would go to schools and talk about teen dating violence and stuff like that. And then this role opened up at the Children's Advocacy Center, and that just expanded my knowledge on talking to kids about child abuse and how to recognize those signs, because most children, again, don't realize it's wrong until someone comes in and says, this is wrong, this is not normal, this is not okay. So I just love the prevention aspect, because child sexual abuse is preventable. Yeah. But it takes education and awareness. And that's why we're here.
That's why we're here. It takes education and awareness. And sometimes it's hard to talk about, but we need to do it at an age-appropriate level so that they know. I mean, if we don't ever bring up body parts and private parts and what's okay and what's not okay, then why would they know? You know, there's not an awareness of that naturally comes up unless we start to talk about it early. So, okay. All right, here we go. What is the Pediatric Prevention Initiative? Like, break it down in like simple terms.
Yes. So a lot of focus for child abuse prevention has been really with children. We want them to recognize and respond and all the things for children. And that's great. And we want to do that. So don't get me wrong. I want to teach your kids. But parents are the ones that are in charge. And there's a gap. There's been some studies, national and state, that show that parents want to have these conversations with their children to keep them safe from child sexual abuse. But they don't know how.
How to.
If I was to say, hey, how would you talk to a 5-year-old about child sexual abuse? You'd probably be like, well, you're a doctor, so you may have know a bit more, right?
Right.
I mean, like, you know,
I understand what you're saying. You'll be more like at 5, you know?
Right.
But yeah, like the little things that we say, even if during bath time we say, oh, don't forget, this is your private area. Nobody should be, you know, the smallest things, especially if mommy or daddy says it, they remember those things.
Right. And they're the ones that are putting them in charge of where they go, where they stay, who they're around, right? Our parents you are the best advocate as a parent of your child to keep them safe. And so basically we want to close that gap. And so we are partnering with pediatricians and doctors in our area. And we are giving them this one little sheet of paper called Safety Starts With You. Okay, and it's a front and back. It's got 5 steps on how to have these conversations with your children and to start those wheels turning. This is not everything, but it starts it plants the seed, it gets you thinking about it. And we're giving these out during wellness visits, 2 to 12 years old, just to, again, have those conversations from a very young age in an age appropriate way, you know, and then hopefully continuing on. And so these parents want this information from their doctors because that's where they trust. We get those little sheets, so I know I do at my child's wellness visits, about, you know, buckling them in the car seats and all the things. This is just another paper to say, we want you to protect your kids. And this is where it can start. And so hopefully this initiative will encourage parents to have these conversations more with their kids and help them just look more into it.
Awesome. Awesome. Why is this something that parents should start thinking about early?
Yes. Oh my goodness. So having these conversations early, well, for one, you kind of mentioned it when you started the podcast. These are topics that we don't talk about very often. They're very taboo and they're very hard. And I totally get that. But when you start labeling, which we'll kind of go into this in a minute, that this is a penis, this is a butt or a vagina or whatever it is, that's like head, shoulders, knees, and toes. That's a part of their body. We should label it as that, right? If a kid, because I said we interview as young as 2 years old. If a 2-year-old came to me and said, they touched my salad bowl.
And you're like, what is that?
That's a name that we hear kids call their body
parts. A salad bowl?
I got a whole list I can tell you about.
Please do. Okay, this is what I hear a lot, and and I had to piece it together because my family, we always called it normal name, like the real name. Right. And of course, that's what I do with my kids. But I had to figure out, why are we doing these pocketbook, like the purse and the pocketbook? I've
heard. I sent a message to my team, and I was like, what are some of the silliest or craziest names you've heard? And they all had, we actually have a board in one of our rooms that just has running lists of silly names, you know, salad bowl, bread basket.
What is the salad bowl? Is it the vagina? Yes. Wow. Okay, keep going.
Okay. We got captain's quarters. This is a guy that I was in the military. We have cookie. We've probably heard of cookie.
I've heard that. Yes, I've heard that.
Sugar bowl. No. For a vagina, I saw on the little board called Bali thing. I was like, I wouldn't think that would be a vagina, but on there it was called a Bali thing. Okay. Yeah, those are just some shame area.
Shame area.
Shame area.
Oh no. So, okay, so this is the thing, and I want you to correct me because this is your area. You're the expert here. The reason why I don't think personally that it's good for us to give pet names is because number one, why are we giving pet names? For what is the reason? Like, is it a something inside that makes us think that they shouldn't know penis, vagina, butt, breast, or chest? I just don't understand why. And that's the thing. We don't want to, then it becomes something that we're hiding, I guess. I don't know. It just makes it a little strange. Like, just like you teach head, shoulders, knees, and toes at the, when we start to grab down there, because at a certain age, we will start to touch and things like that. You name it. You tell them what it is and why we can't touch it in public. And like that's part of the development. And we don't want it to be almost like a spooky thing. It's
right.
Like, and then if something ever does happen, nobody knows what you're talking about.
Exactly.
If you would tell me salad bowl, I would have had no idea what you were talking about.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is if they don't know their body parts, then they don't know that if they go to somebody, they won't be able to recognize that was an issue or what had happened. They may just shrug it off or shake it off. And then just not putting shame to it. I feel like we as the adults are the ones that make this a taboo subject. I go into schools all over Bowie County, Cass County, and the other 6 counties we serve. And I start from kindergarten with prevention education in our school.
And I mean, this is just a side note. We shouldn't feel uncomfortable talking to our kids because we want to be the ones to give them the information. We don't want it to come from anywhere else. We don't want it to have to come from school or friends or anywhere. We want to give them the information on what's right and wrong, what's normal and what's not. And so comfortable with conversation with your kids. Okay. We already talked about that. Okay, here we go. What are maybe 2 or 3 rules that every family should have? Like maybe body safety or
right.
No secrets or personal touch. Like, is there anything that you say every family should have these rules from the beginning?
Yes. So since we were kind of talking about that pediatric initiative, and we can just kind of touch on those 5 points real quickly.
Yeah.
So the first one that I really like to point out, which you've already talked about, is the body parts. Name them as they are. So the kids, from the time we're changing diapers, this is a penis, this is a vagina, do that, those kind of things. So make sure they know that these are private, that no one's supposed to look at or touch or take pictures of, depending on their age and development, where you're going with that, right? But even from a young age, because at 3 years old, our kids are going to school, right? They should know what's not okay. No one should be touching them there. They should not be touching other kids in their private body parts. Only people that should be looking at our private body parts is mommy and daddy. Make sure we're safe and okay, and a doctor, if we need to get checkups and stuff like that when mommy and daddy are in the room, or our caregiver, whoever that is, right? So number one, and that kind of goes into the what is private body boundaries, body safety, and really upholding those boundaries for your kids. They always have the right to say no. That's my next point. They don't want to hug. They don't want to kiss. Even if it's from grandma, they can say, no, mommy, I don't want that. Or no, grandma, no, thank you. And we have to respect that. Even though to me, a hug is fine, they may feel uncomfortable with it. And we have to respect that and let them know that they are the boss of their body. And they get to say yes or no. And just because they said yes one time does not give them permission to do it every time. You always have to get permission. That's what consent is, right? And you can start teaching that as a young age. I give you permission to give me a hug or a high five, right? And that's respectable, okay? Then we also want to remind them that it's okay to come to mommy and daddy when something feels wrong, confusing, or makes you upset. And that could be for anything. And those are good questions, like when you're talking to your younger kids, like my son is 2, and I'm starting to introduce these questions, open-ended questions, like, what is something that made you happy today or sad? He actually told me, he's like, I was sad. Rowdy threw a toy at me today at daycare. And I was like, oh, you actually told me what made you sad today, So they are going to communicate. You just have to open that door for them. And so letting them talk to you about things that are confusing or makes them upset or uncomfortable, knowing that you are that door, right? To get that information from them and those things. Let me just check my notes real quick. And then explain the difference between a secret versus a surprise. We don't want to keep unsafe secrets from our parents and our grown-ups. A surprise is something we keep for a short amount of time, but we eventually tell others about. A secret is usually when someone's doing something bad they should not be doing, and they want you to keep it a secret, right? Even if they say that no one will believe you or that you'll get into trouble if you tell, we always remind our kids, you always should tell, and we don't keep unsafe secrets. And that's even like, if an uncle took you out for ice cream, you need to tell mommy, when we don't keep those kind of secrets, kind of thing. Right. So those are just some easy things that's on this initiative, on ways to start those conversations with our kids.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And that's something that's going to start going with all the wellness visits, yes. So that it can give you more information. And we can even, that may be something that we can even post on the page after we have this podcast, so that you can even be looking and seeing from the beginning. I think it's something great to have. Okay, these are things that you can start today. Like, it's not hard to start trying to open that communication and start these safety initiatives. Okay. What are, like, these are real life situations. What are some situations where parents should be more aware? So to me, these are things that sometimes we think it's common sense, but sometimes it's not. Like, you may think that you're an overprotective parent, but we are supposed to protect our kids.
Right.
And so, I mean, it's as easy as like sleepovers.
Yes.
Yes. Do you know where your child is going? Do you know where they're going? Who's going to be there? Are the adults going to be there the whole time?
Are there other children coming over?
Yeah, to me, those things are common, normal questions to ask. Yeah. But I think people are getting more aware of that part. Like, mm-hmm. I feel like sleepovers are not the common anymore, mm-hmm. Because of the world now, yeah. Which is sad. But right. But are there other situations where parents should at least have a heightened awareness of, let me ask more questions, let me be more in tune of what my children are doing?
Right. So, I mean, I think another couple, my brain is spinning, but one is youth serving organizations. When I send my kid to church camp, right? What are their policies and procedures? That is the first thing I highly encourage you. If you send your kid to a Mother's Day Out program, a daycare, a school, ask for those policies and procedures on like what is okay and not okay for like student code of conduct for like teacher, adult, student interactions and right. Other children, right? What are the rules when children go to the bathroom? What are the rules when we're walking to a different part of the camp? Like, do we have to have another child there? Should there be multiple adults? We're asking these questions to see what their training is. Have they received any training in mm-hmm. child abuse prevention right. or mandated reporting? Because if you didn't know, everyone in Texas as an adult is a mandated reporter. So you need to report child abuse if you have a suspicion. But not everyone is required to do those things. Now, schools and our daycares have more strict policies on those kind of things, but Mother's Day Out programs don't. They don't have those same requirements. Church camp, community organizations, what does that look like? So ask those questions because you're the best advocate for your children, and it may sway your decision, right? One big thing is reducing those one-on-one interactions with adults and other children. If they don't have to be alone with a child, everything needs to be observable and interruptible. So doors being open when we're having meetings and conversations with children. If it's a car ride, is there another child in the car going to sports practice? The coach should not be in their office with the door closed with a child, right? We need to have everything, even if it's just like a window in a principal's office, right? Observable, interruptible where we can. Those are really big. And then technology. Nothing good happens after 9:00.
Yeah.
Take the phones away, take the laptops away, take the tablets, whatever it is. Don't let them play video games. They don't need to be talking to those people. I think most online crimes against children or things happen after like 9:00.
Oh, that's a big one, you guys.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big one. I mean, we think about places that we go late, right? Places that we go, but even online, like, because my kids are little, so I don't, that just gives chills to me, yeah. The interaction even that we have online at night yes. is what we have to be aware of. And so what do we even need the access to our kids online late what is it? Is it necessary? Is it something
Right.
that we have to have? So that's a big one. Even the video games, and I don't know how accurate this is, but I think one of the people that created one of the games here recently was arrested for child pornography and things like that. I want to say it was Roblox.
I know there's a big lawsuit about Roblox right now,
right.
but even though the game is meant for children, that's where these perpetrators are going, is where kids are hanging out.
Because that's where your kids
That's where your kids are. And there's all these restrictions and like things to keep them safe. And I'm not saying they're not good things, but at the end of the day, kids are smart and they know how to work around a lot of these things. And these perpetrators are smart too. And they're going to pull them to different platforms, try to get them to talk. And so again, online safety is a really big thing. Missingkids.org is a great place to get more information on that. But yeah, like knowing your kids' online friends. Kids are making friends with more people online nowadays. Knowing who they are, don't keep those headsets on. Let's all have this conversation where I can hear it.
If
we're
I go
playing
in your room,
open spaces. Yes. So all those things are ways to keep them safer. And then parental controls, right? At the end of the day, we always say these conversations, that's why we're talking, and to have these conversations with your children, because that's going to be the best tool for prevention. Because if your child, at the end of the day, right, if they want to do this, they're going to figure out a way to talk to this person or whatever, but you are there to be open. And if something happens or they get scared or they're confused, they know they can come to mom and tell them, I messed up. I know like this was hard and I wasn't supposed to, but I did. I made a mistake. Okay, let's fix it. Let's work through it. You don't have to do this alone. Because a lot of kids have that fear. So when we create those open spaces to create conversations, then they know they can go to mom and dad for help.
And we talk about this a lot, like the communication between you and your child is so important. It's just so important for them to feel comfortable talking to you first. Okay. You mentioned, this is just kind of I heard you say reporting. Every adult in Texas is a mandated reporter. Where if they know that they've seen something or they know that they've heard something, where do they report? Where's the reporting? Like, is there a phone number? Is there a place? Do they call you guys? Do they call the police? What do they do since they now know that they should report something that they are aware of? Where's that report go?
Yes. So every state has a child abuse hotline. So you can just Google Texas Child Abuse Hotline and you'll be able to look up that number so you can call. If it's not an emergency, which means that the child is not in home with the offender, or they're not suicidal or having suicidal ideations, there's also an online reporting portal. Just, we say not emergency stuff because that takes a little bit longer to get someone to read the online portal reports and stuff like that. So if the child is not in immediate danger, you can do an online report as well. Reporting to law enforcement is always great. We always say to dual report. And what that means is doing the child abuse hotline and calling law enforcement, because there are different like laws and rules versus like, criminal charges versus like, and they're supposed to be talking and stuff like that, but communication, our system's not perfect. And so when you report to the child abuse hotline and to law enforcement, you're just double checking yourself to make sure that child does get someone to talk to them, to hear them, especially in immediate situations, like if the child's going to be around them, going to go home with the offender, we're calling 911 immediately.
And they know if you do more than one report, they know how urgent it is, right? They'll know which one needs to be, pushed up to the top of the list. Hey, we need to do something now. This one is urgent or emergent. Like it gives you more confidence that it won't be missed, correct?
Right. And so like what I love about dual reporting with law enforcement is they can immediately go lay eyes on the child. Bruises can fade. If a child's being sexually abused, then they may destroy evidence. They could run away with the child. And response time from Child Protective Services after you make a hotline report, it could be, 24 to 72 hours, right? So it can happen in 24 and 72 hours, right? And so we say when you do a report, that is going to let someone go lay eyes on that child immediately to make sure they're safe and okay. And then they will work with our Child Protective Services, law enforcement, to again, bring them to our center. We're working as a team, but we just want to make sure that child is safe. And so we always say to dual report.
Okay. If a child speaks up, if a child tells their parent something that makes them aware of an incident that happened, whether it's physical, sexual, any kind of abuse that happened, at that moment, what should a parent do? Like, what's recommended that our parents do at that time?
Yes. So the biggest thing is remain calm. If you start getting wired up and you're showing big emotions and you're like, oh my God, child's gonna be like, whoa. You're like, I'm reading your vibes. You're like, this is a lot, and that may prevent them from continuing to tell you because you're getting emotional. They're already probably emotional themselves. You need to be regulated so they can continue to tell you their story. So remain calm. Don't show big emotions. Believe them. I know that sounds really simple, but many people, they're like, oh, that's a lie, or you're not telling the truth. But less than 5% of reported cases when children come forward and say are actually false. That means 95% are true. And so we need to.
Can you say that again?
Less than 5% of the time when a child comes forward and says something is going on, they're lying. So 95% of the time, they're telling the truth.
You guys, 95%. So more likely than not, if your child, regardless the age, told you that something has happened, believe them first.
Yes.
Don't question them. Don't. No, not Uncle Johnny. No, he doesn't do that kind of stuff. If I was a kid, I'd be like, well, wait a minute. I'm telling you, like, believe them. 95%, that should stick in your head.
Yeah, that's and I love that number. Point about Uncle Johnny, because 93% of the time, child sexual abuse, and then abuse is 90%, is done by someone that child knows and trusts. So it's not the white pedo van that comes in her. That does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't. Most of the time, it's, uncles, aunts, teachers, coaches, parents, other children, right?
The hard one it's really sad. It's really scary. But the one that I've seen the most, now, of course, I'm on the back end of it. Usually I'm not the first person to hear. You guys, the ER, the police, the Child Advocacy Center, they're usually the first ones that hear this. When I hear it, it's usually, unfortunately, like a boyfriend, mom's boyfriend was keeping them while mom went to work. Yes, an uncle or a friend's, we stayed with a friend and his, my friend's dad, his dad, or things like that, but be aware of, I know it's hard. And this is just, if you have things to do and you do not have people a good support system to keep your kiddos, that's where you need to have the red flags. Like, who are you leaving your kiddos with? Who are you leaving your kiddos with? And that's the hard thing. We think everybody's good and have their mind and will treat our kids like we treat our kids. But we just have to be really, it's not being an overprotective helicopter mom, overprotective parent. That's not what it is. It's just protecting our kids.
Yes. Another point I want to make real quickly too, 70% of child sexual abuse is done by another child. So it's not just the adults that we need to be monitoring and aware about, but like one-on-one interactions with children when they're playing in the bedroom alone, like, again, keeping that door open, doing check-ins, right? Those different kind of things. I'm not trying to scare you, and that's not the point of this. Mm-hmm. It's just saying, be aware.
Awareness.
Aware. That's it. Be aware and do your best to check in and monitor and do the best you can, because we're not perfect. That's what I really want you to understand, is that you're not going to get everything right. We don't, right? But you can do your best. You can do your research. You can be thinking about it, and you can start today with those things.
Right.
Yeah. I wanted to continue talking about what you should do if a child comes to you. So I said, we said believe them. Mm-hmm. We said
don't
remain
panic.
Calm.
Yes.
We want to listen and just let silence be there sometimes, because if you let there be silence, usually they'll continue to say more. Want to validate them. Thank you for sharing that with me. You're not in trouble. It's not your fault. Thank you for doing that. Mm-hmm. Don't make promises you can't keep. because you can't promise, they're going to get locked away in jail forever, but you can say, I'm going to do everything I can to keep you safe. And that's a promise you can make, but don't make promises you can't keep, and then expose it. Make sure you do the report. Make sure you tell law enforcement so that that child can receive justice and healing and start that process.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure a counselor is going to be a big piece of that healing process too.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This can be a little overwhelming, but I'm glad we're having this conversation because it has to start somewhere. Like,
Yes.
I'm glad that we're doing this. I think this was your idea. It may have been, yeah, I don't know where this podcast idea came up, but I think this is great. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question. Here we go. What is one small step? I think we've kind of hit on this that a parent can take today. I think we hit on this, the open questions, the communication.
Yes. Yeah, keeping those open questions. We talked about those 5 preventative factors, conversations to have, again, reducing those one-on-one, moments with children and adults and things like that, and asking questions. So I feel like we really did cover that a lot already.
Okay.
But if you have more questions and you want to dive in, I brought this little book, and you can go to their website, but it's called The Mama Bear Effect. And we have these at our office, and I can always leave some with you too. I didn't bring any today, but they have great ways from infancy through teenage years on how to start these conversations with your kid, facts, statistics, different things to be aware about on how to actually do this age appropriately with your children.
That's good.
Because it's hard. Like at 2 years old, right? What can you do? Besides just labeling body parts, right? So lots of different things and ways to think about it. But the Mama Bear Effect is a really great website and tool. And we respect their program a lot.
Okay, and that was the mamabeareffect.org.
Yes, the mamabeareffect.org.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So any other places for more information that just comes to the top of your head?
Yes. We're talking about what steps can you take to start these conversations, get trainings. We also, at the Children's Advocacy Center, do free trainings in our community. We actually have a Stewards of Children training coming up that's going to talk about how to prevent child sexual abuse. And this is good for parents, educators, teachers, coaches, church members, all these different things. And it's a free training here in our community that we're offering on the 23rd. So if you go to our social media page, you can find that training. And there's trainings all over. I mean, missingkids.org, I mentioned earlier, they have trainings on there and information. That's really good for online safety stuff. It's called NetSmart. So from like 5 years old to teenage years, how to talk to your kids about internet safety. The Bark phone, they have ways to do the parental controls and like YouTube videos on how to like do those. So just doing the research. Google's going to be your best friend. So Google
this time Google will be your friend.
Yes.
Y'all know how I feel about Google. Google will be your friend right now. Wonderful. So that was a training that they have to register for?
Yes, a training to register for. We'll be posting it on our social media probably today or tomorrow.
Okay.
And they can it's an Eventbrite registration. It's 2.5 hours, and I know that sounds long, but
yeah,
it's a really good training. It's a nationally recognized training, and we offer that for free in our community.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so look for that Texarkana Children's Advocacy Center on their website. Do y'all have a Facebook page?
Our Facebook page.
On your Facebook page. Look for that information. It's coming up soon here in a couple of weeks, and that's a free program just to help us get more information about protecting our children. I think that's wonderful. I really appreciate you for coming and talking to me about this.
Thank you for having me and for being a partner in this pediatric prevention initiative.
Right.
Because you don't understand just the impact I feel like this is going to make on our community. That little thing, I feel like it's just going to do amazing things. So thank you for all that you're doing too.
Oh, no problem. Hey, we're here to serve the community and to make our parents more confident in their parenting. That's the point, right? The parent prescription. I just want to give you as much as I can so you can be confident in your parenting, because the parenting journey can be hard. And I'm here to partner with you, parents, partner with the community, partner with anything that will serve you. So I hope you had your listening ear on. This was a big topic today. Very important topic. Share it with your friends. Share it with anybody that you know that have children. Don't disappoint me. Share this information, okay? You'll get more information as you come to your wellness visits here, and Thank you for joining us this week in The Parent Prescription.